Hey guys, it's Bryony. Welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. Things are crazy busy around here at the moment, and trying to find time to sit down and do a video is like finding a miracle. But that miracle clearly happened today, and I finally had a free moment to do this video that I've been really wanting to do for a couple of weeks now, which is my feelings on not having had a period for a whole year. Sort of. So those of you who have been following me for quite a while, you will know that back at the beginning of 2019, I was diagnosed with a condition called adenomyosis, which basically means the lining of my uterus has grown into the walls of my uterus, and each month it fills with blood and it creates excruciatingly painful periods. In my case, they weren't particularly heavy, but for a lot of people it can also cause heavy periods too. It's sort of similar, like a cousin or a sister to endometriosis, which is more commonly known. Now, I'm 24 and I've been having painful periods since I was 15. And for many years I was trying to manage it naturally. Obviously my whole channel is built around talking about periods and reusable menstrual products. I run a business selling cloth menstrual pads. I tried, using all these natural products and different supplements and medications, well natural remedies, etc., to try and manage my period. I tried so many things, I literally can't count them all anymore. I've forgotten all the different things I've tried so many things, but none of it worked. And then last year there was a period, I think in January, February, March time, where I had just had it. Like, I just had enough of dealing with my painful periods each month. And it wasn't even a particularly bad period, but it was just a period where I finally went, you know what? I'm done with this now. I'm ready to try something else. I had been against going on the pill for a long time, mainly because I have another condition called Lyme disease, which is now managed through diet and exercise, and I don't need any medication for it, and just over time I've healed from it. But I was always really scared that going on hormonal contraceptives would set it off and spark another relapse or something, so I was always really keen to avoid that. But as I said, I've been doing a lot better. I've been well for quite a while now and have living a normal life for a long time. So I felt like actually it was worth trying something to see if it worked. Beforehand, I had tried the patch briefly, but that hadn't worked. I'd had side effects from it. It had caused me to feel really exhausted, so I'd had to give up on that one. But I finally started thinking maybe I could try the pill. Now, I happen to be really lucky because my mum has a friend that she met at university who is now a senior gynecologist. And this was pre-pandemic. She was coming down to visit us, and my mum had told her that I was thinking about trying some kind of hormonal contraceptive, trying a pill, and asked her would she mind sitting down with me for an hour to have a chat about it, and she said yeah, that's fine, which was really great. So I literally got an hour to sit down with a professional gynecologist and sort of talk about all my concerns and what I was looking for and what I was hoping for. And she, after listening to all of that stuff and taking in my Lyme disease and everything else, she said to me that she would recommend I tried a 75 milligram desogestrel pill. So armed with this information, I then booked an appointment with one of my local GPs, and I deliberately chose a male because I find that generally speaking, the male doctors will give in more easily than the female doctors when it comes to things around menstruation and just in general, like problems with the female reproductive system. Like, they just tend to be like, okay, I accept what you're saying a bit more than sometimes the women do. That's just my experience anyway. And I went in and I explained what had happened. I said, I've been having painful periods for a long time. I was very lucky that a friend of my mother's is a senior gynecologist, and I had a chat with her and she recommended this pill. Could you please, would you be able to prescribe it to me? And he said yes, fortunately. I wondered if I'd have a bit of a battle with that, but he said, it's a very common pill that we prescribe, so that's fine. Yes, you can have it. And I was given the Cerazette pill. So that was back in March 2020 and beginning of March 2020, and then I started taking it straight away, and it took a couple of months for the pill to actually really kick in. So at first it did sort of lighten my periods, it messed up my cycle a little bit in terms of like I'd get period after a week or two, but gradually they got lighter and lighter until the point where they finally stopped in July last year. So with the exception of a very brief kind of period of spotting that I got after my first COVID jab, which by the way, when it happened I said, I bet you this is going to be a big thing, and when they start vaccinating all the under 30s and 20s and all the younger women, they're going to be talking about it a lot more, and guess what, they're talking about it a lot more. It does happen. Anyway, aside from that little brief period of spotting, I've not had a period for an entire year now, and quite honestly, it has been bliss. I really did not know how I was going to feel about stopping my periods. They've always been an important thing to me. When I first got them at 14, I very much associated getting my period with becoming a woman and femininity and all that stuff. It was to me, they were very intricately linked. Not the same for every person, but that was my experience. And they were always important to me. And obviously, my whole business is built around periods. My YouTube channel is built around periods. So stopping them was a massive decision, and I really didn't know how I'd feel about it. But the difference in my quality of life now is staggering. I don't have to plan things around my period anymore. I don't have to look at my diary to work out if I'm likely to have my period when I'm booking things in. There would literally be weeks, like 3 or 4 days, that I could not book things in each month on my calendar because I had no idea what state I'd be in. And sometimes I've had to cancel things last minute and be like, I'm really sorry, but I literally can't get out of bed because I'm in agony. And it's just, it was so invasive, is really what I'd use. And as I said before in this video, I tried everything I could think of. Anything I found, natural remedies, you name it, some really crazy things like I tried to see if I could get my periods under control. They didn't work. And technically being on the pill hasn't fixed my issue, hasn't made my periods less painful obviously, but it stopped them, hence the reason I'm not having any pain, because I'm not having them. But it has had the impact, which means that I now don't have to think about my period when planning daily things in my life, and that is just so refreshing. So when I first went on the pill, I did have a few side effects. I did do a 8-week pill update when I first went onto it, in which I did a much more in-depth talk about the side effects I was experiencing. But they gradually wore off, and now I would say I don't currently have any real side effects from it. And the only thing I'd say possibly that I have is a slightly lower libido, but to be honest, it's kind of hard to tell because I started taking the pill in March 2020, which also happens to be the time that the COVID pandemic really took off. And so we've been living in a pandemic for the last year, plus I'm on the asexual spectrum, so not really an easy thing to tell. Maybe slightly reduced it, but not massively so. And other than that, certainly no other symptoms. I've not gained weight. I've not become depressed. I maybe noticed I'm slightly less motivated, but again, global pandemic, a little bit hard to distinguish between the two. But certainly nothing major. I've not been breaking out in spots more than I usually would. There's nothing critical about it that I've noticed. The only thing I think was the first couple of weeks I had tender boobs, and then that wore off. And as I said, now that I've settled into it, it hasn't affected my Lyme. I'm still able to do all the normal things, and it's given me, well, it's kind of given me a new lease of life, really. So that answers the question of how I'm feeling about stopping my periods a year on. Just really, really good about it so far. And initially when I planned to do this, I thought I would do it for a year, have a year off my periods, and then come off the pill and kind of see how I did. But because it's been so successful, I've decided I'm not going to stop it. You know, I'd love to be able to manage my periods naturally. That would be my ultimate goal. But right now, I love the freedom it's given me, and I think I'm going to continue doing this for a while. And also because I'm starting to think about now how in the future, in a couple of years' time, I might want to think about, you know, getting pregnant and having kids. I'm probably going to stay on it until that point now, but who knows, I might change my mind before then. But like, that's currently where I am. I'm on the pill. This particular pill is working really well for me. That was the real advantage and the privilege, I guess, of being able to sit down with a gynecologist, with a professional, and get their advice and their opinion on what I should take. And they got it right first time, which was just amazing. So that I was really lucky with. I didn't have to play around with different pills before I found one that worked for me. But I do know that this pill has been hell for some people. So it's not a case of this is the magic pill that worked for everybody. Everyone's bodies are different, so unfortunately my experience isn't necessarily going to reflect your own, but for me this has worked great, and I am so pleased I took that decision. Now, earlier today I asked you guys on my Instagram and Facebook pages if you had any questions for me for this particular video, and I've had so many responses, so I'm going to go through some of them now, answering your guys' questions about how I feel a year on from not having periods. So I got quite a lot of responses to this. So I'm not going to be able to answer them all, but I'm going to pick out some of my favourite ones and ones I think would be relevant to the majority of you as well. Okay, here's a good one, and one I've kind of answered in this video. What side effects did you get on Cerazette, and did they settle down? Initially, I think I had a little bit of nausea and I had some boob pain. If you want to know the side effects I got in the first 8 weeks, I do have a video called my first 8 weeks on Cerazette, which you can go and watch if you want to see in detail, but that's what I had, and yes, they did settle down, and I don't have them anymore. Somebody has asked, has it helped you mentally not having to worry about planning around period pain? Massively. Again, touched on this earlier in the video, but just being able to have my entire calendar free has been so great. And really made a difference in my life, yeah. Another question has being on the pill affected your Lyme disease in any way? Fortunately not. This was actually one of the reasons that I wanted to go on the pill and not take the Mirena. Everyone was pushing me on the Mirena. All the doctors that I saw, like even the gynecologist who I sat down with, she did talk about the Mirena, but I had made it very clear to her I wasn't comfortable with this, so she didn't push it, which was good. But I was constantly pushing the Mirena. I said, I don't want that. that, because I know what women's medicine is like, and trying to convince someone to take it out of me is a feat in itself if I want it removed, because I don't seem to have autonomy over my own body. But the pill was something that I could control and I could stop if it had problems with, I had serious side effects from it, and I didn't have to kind of go to a doctor and persuade them to remove something from me. So there's an element of control there of wanting to take the pill. But fortunately, no, it's not had a detrimental effect on my Lyme disease. Have you noticed any negative changes, i.e. mood swings, lack of sex drive, weight gain? Like I said before, no real mood swings. The libido one is kind of hard to tell. Weight gain, definitely not. This is a good one. Has it changed your work, YouTube, since much of it is based on reviews? Yes, as you might have been able to tell, it has. And this is a real tricky one for me, because I do love doing YouTube and I want to move my channel forward and kind of evolve it in certain ways. But how to do that when I'm not having periods anymore? And also, like, this has been like 8 years of periods now. I might want to move into some other areas too. That's a bit of a challenge to work out what to do. So it has left me a bit stranded in that respect. But yes, it has changed how my channel works a bit. I do miss doing the period vlogs, I'm not going to lie. Do you miss not using RUMPs? For those of you new, RUMP stands for reusable menstrual products. No, because I actually do still use my RUMPs. I use daily panty liners. I use my cloth panty liners every day. And actually I've really got back into them since I stopped using my cloth pads so much for my periods, because I was using like the biodegradable liners for a while. I seem to prefer them. But actually I've got back into the reusable cloth pads now, and the cloth panty liners, and I find them much more breathable, much more comfortable. So I'm really pleased I found those again. So I have still been using my RUMPs, but I do kind of miss some of my pretty pads, I'm not gonna lie. Do you wish you had decided to go on the pill much earlier? This is a really, really good question, actually. The answer to this is no. Even though I suffered through painful periods for about 7 years before I finally decided to go on the pill, for me, I needed to be ready to take that step. I know early on my parents were kind of pushing me into, why don't you want to take the pill? And I was trying to explain to them, like, I don't want that in my body. I want to try other things first. And for me, I had to try all these different options, try all my natural methods to see if I could get it to work before I finally gave in and went, do you know what, actually, I'm sick of this now. I've tried so many things. I'm just going to give it a go. So there's kind of like I wish I'd not dealt with painful periods for so long in my life, but I'm also not regretful that I waited this long, because I needed to be ready for me to make that decision and to feel that it was my own and I wasn't pressured into it. And so I'm pleased I did it when I did. So no, I don't regret it. Has your mood changed, and do you still experience PMS? Now, I never really experienced PMS when I wasn't on the pill, when I had periods anyway. I was really lucky. The only premenstrual syndrome symptom that I used to get was cramping before my period started, but I was very lucky. I never experienced like particular mood swings or like cravings as such with food. So for me, like, that's a bit of a tricky one for me to say, because I didn't get that in the first place. But certainly in terms of mood swings and stuff, I didn't develop it when I got on the pill. So there wasn't really any change for me there. And the final question I'm going to answer is, did you have any excessive bleeding while your body was getting adjusted to the pills, or any other discomfort? Well, I've kind of covered the side effects I had the first few weeks, but I definitely didn't have excessive bleeding. I think the first period I had no real difference after I started the pill. It was very much a gradual thing over the months. It took about 2-3 months for my period to stop, which the doctor, by the way, warned me about. And he said it can take 2 or 3, sometimes more months for your body to kind of settle down into a routine, and for the periods they would eventually stop. They might start up again in the future. You don't know how your body's going to react to this stuff. But I think the first one was definitely the same, and then everyone after that, they kind of happened every 3 weeks, I found, after that, rather than every 4 weeks or so. Gradually got shorter. They then got progressively lighter and shorter until it was literally just some spotting, and then it stopped completely. And still occasionally I will get the odd cramp, but it's not like dire pain. And also it's less severe when masturbating. Like, I used to get really bad cramp, particularly before my period. Like, I could not masturbate because I would get the horrendously painful period cramps, almost like I was on my period. I would think my period was starting. I'd wake up with those awful cramps. That stopped too, although I do still get mild ones sometimes. But yeah, no, that was another thing that they definitely improved as well. So yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There were many more questions, but I think a lot of them I answered during the main part of this video. So hopefully your question did get answered, and if it didn't, maybe leave it down below and it might be something I can answer, or something I'll consider doing a video on by itself later on. But I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, you can still get cloth pads and panty liners, etc. from my website, Precious Stars. Link is down below. And thank you so much for sticking with me through this, even though there's been long breaks and some kind of random videos thrown in there that I've been enjoying enjoying making as well. I'm still figuring out where this channel is going in the future and all the other videos with it, but I hope you guys will stick around and see how that evolves. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye!